The Nord Stream pipeline carrying Russian natural gas is now officially open. It runs along the bottom of the Baltic Sea and supplies Russian gas to the European continent. The €7.4 billion investment will give gas-dependent Europe a steady stream of natural gas from Siberian oil fields. The controversial project cuts across the territorial waters of several nations. Sweden decided not to join the project. One of the reasons given was concern that Russia might use the gas supply as a political tool. In winter of 2009, Russia cut off the gas supply to Europe over a dispute with Ukraine. The new 1,200-kilometre-long offshore pipelines will deliver gas in the full capacity in 2020. Thousands of protesters march outside the White House urging US President Barack Obama to stop a planned pipeline between Canada and the US.
Thousands of protesters opposed to a new oil pipeline from Canada to the United States circled the White House grounds on Sunday. They're trying to press President Barack Obama to reject the project for environmental reasons. Opponents to TransCanada Corporation's Keystone XL pipeline, which is to transport crude produced from oil sands, argue that the carbon emissions produced while extracting oil from the sands would worsen climate change. Men and women, many of them wearing orange vests with "Stop the Pipeline" printed on them, lined up around the White House grounds. The pipeline controversy threatens to loom over the 2012 presidential race. Obama faces political pitfalls whether his administration approves or rejects the project. A decision in favor would support Obama's goal of creating jobs and diversifying U.S. energy sources. On the other hand, it would alienate core Democratic supporters who are already disappointed by his progress in fighting climate change. Obama was not at the White House when the protest took place.
You're leaving.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Wednesday, November 9th, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is my website, ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. Also on YouTube, you can check out my channel. It's ddarko2012. And I have a poll up here, and there's not too much time left. It says here 2 days left, so if you haven't voted, please come and vote. If given the choice, would you abandon your human body to convert into a cyborg-like machine? 50 voters, 83% are saying no, followed by 8% saying yes. Moving down here, we have email. You can put in your email address and receive updates from GGN right to your email account. Also, we have a news archive right there. Down here, you can network blogs. Sometimes I go down here. I haven't done it in a while, so I guess I'll go down and show it. If you go all the way down here, you can click on this button and follow network blogs. So far, we have 54 members there. Moving up here, I know this is kind of redundant for some people, but if you're a new listener, it's good to put this information out there. There's a donate button here or in YouTube's video description. All right, I'm done with that. Besides that, all the headlines and links for all these articles, so it's going to be about 150 today, will be in YouTube's video description. I recommend going through there and actually reading into all the, not all of them, but whatever articles you find interesting, as I don't have I don't have time to do every single article. I try to do a brief overview of the headlines. That's why I call it a bulletin. Okay, hurricane force winds hit Alaska coast as officials order evacuation of city in path of life-threatening storm. So here we go with this. Baltic gas pipeline linking Russian EU officially launches. Then you have this pipeline, Canadian-U.S. pipeline as well. And then what? Now, this is either Mother Nature saying no, you don't, or what? Or this is something just to evacuate people to get them out of there. I don't know, but I would imagine it's just a natural storm. Says inhabitants of Nome, Alaska, warned to head inland as front of storm strike city. Roofs are blown off some buildings in Nome. Sea levels expected to rise by 10 feet, threatening coastal communities. Say extremely dangerous and life-threatening. I thought this was a pretty neat little angle or photo. Photo angle right here. You can see all the way over there. I think you could actually see water over there. But either way, it's a pretty big storm. And in here in the Midwest right now, we're looking at like about at least 40-mile-an-hour winds, probably plus. that. So this isn't just over there. This is throughout the United States. Okay, moving on here, we have Feds drop plan to lie in public record act request. I tried to cover this last time, but either way, bowing to political pressure, the Justice Department abruptly dropped proposed revisions to the Freedom of Information Act rules on Thursday that would have authorized the government to inform the public that requested records do not even exist. Even if they do, finishing up, the proposal would have granted the government a new option to state that documents relevant to the FOIA request or Freedom of Information Act request did not exist. Then we have Marc Faber. They can postpone the Endgame for 5 or 10 years. It goes down here and he says that I don't know what other people think, but what I think will eventually happen, and there are so many contradictory statements coming out that nobody really knows, is that the European Central Bank will print money one way or the other, and the debts that essentially should be written down to realistic value will continue to be carried on the books of banks at unrealistic values. So the end crisis will be postponed until sovereigns go bankrupt. Before they go bankrupt, they'll print money. They'll print endless money. As long as we have Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen at the Fed, they'll print money, and so they can postpone to the end. And so, yeah, I think you pretty much get the point. So it's here, report over 50% of U.S. homeowners are underwater. And that's what a report shows now. Still falling home prices highlights the fact that the lower the prices go, the more American borrowers fall into a negative equity position. That is, they owe more on their mortgages than their homes are worth. Next up, we have city's homeless count tops 40,000. This is, of course, in New York City. Their homeless shelter population exceeded 40 grand last week for the first time, capping a rapid rise in homeless children and families since the spring, when the city eliminated a rent subsidy program, according to a report to be released on Wednesday. And, of course, all these austerity measures and budgeting and deficits and all this crap that you hear in the media is aimed at the social services that have helped people for a long time. I mean, there is a lot of class warfare that's going on, especially with this Occupy Wall Street and Occupy the World protest. It's really turning into a class warfare type thing. So people that complain about people that are unemployed or collecting food stamps need to look more at companies like Lockheed Martin, GE, General Electric, pharmaceutical companies, Monsanto. I mean, there's a lot of other things to be looking at where your money, your tax dollars are going, instead of just focusing on people who are not well off and just chastising them, because it's not that simple. But people like him that represent Wall Street. Wall Street, basically funded him. They want us. They want middle class, lower class. They want us to fight each other while all of that money keeps getting siphoned off, right? It keeps going down whatever black hole it is. It says here 15 statistics which prove that the U.S. economy is in much worse shape than most Americans think. I'll go through maybe 5 of them. According to the U.S. Representative, Ms. Sutton, America has lost an average of 15 manufacturing facilities a day over the last 10 years. Sadly, it looks like this trend is picking up momentum. During 2010, an average of 23 manufacturing facilities a day closed down in the U.S. Number 3, since 2001, the U.S. has lost a total of more than 56,000 manufacturing facilities. Number 4, there are way too few jobs, and this is leaving a lot of people out in the cold. The average amount of time that a worker stays unemployed in the U.S. is now a whopping 39 weeks. And what about out in the West Coast, out in Washington? Oh, they don't have enough pickers, not enough workers to pick, the harvest for apples and all that. And it's just like, well, what about all these unemployed people? You know what I'm saying? It says only, but what they want is what? They want to get the prison labor population to work on the farms. It says here, and there'll be a bunch of people, especially neocons and that, and that will say, oh, hey, we got to do it. That's not we got to do it, but that's good. It'll teach them a lesson. I mean, those are the people that actually believe in the Department of Corrections, that you can go to a prison system, state-funded prison system, or even a private one, and actually come out a better person, a more moral person. Now, I think most of us realize that you go in there just like that movie Blow, and you come out with a doctoral in cocaine dealing or whatever, smuggling. It says here only 48% of all unemployed Americans are currently getting unemployment checks from the government. 48%. So that's right. Remember what I said? The unemployment rate, according to your government, is what? It's 9%, but in reality, it's about 20%, and it's only going higher. It says here, chart of the day, the scariest jobs chart ever, percent job losses in post-World War II recessions. And yeah, this is pretty crazy. So this is what happens after a 20-year debt bubble fueled by two irresponsible Fed chairmen. It's not that they were being irresponsible. That's their job. Just like Greenspan, he said just print more money and money. He was saying that gold isn't money and currency. So these guys aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. It's a cartel of private banks, and they get people into a form of slavery via interest. We have to means of exchange our currency, our Federal Reserve note of debt. Every time we pay for something, we buy something, a cut of that goes to these private banks just to use our own money. That's not even really worth anything. They're backed by gold or not. It's not gold backed by anything. Even like we saw, the Fed even said that they haven't had gold reserves in decades. So you can go in there and check that out. But pretty scary. Current employment recession, and a dotted line, ex-census hiring. So you can see that little bump there. Moving on here, Wall Street transaction tax would raise $350 billion. So look at that. Financial transactions proposed by the Congress would raise more than $350 million over the next 9 years. So that's what they want to do, a transaction tax, and then we move on here. EU remains divided over a financial transaction tax, so the EU wants to do it too. And then look at this. We have Archbishop backs campaigners' demand for Tobin tax. That's right, global tax on financial transactions to fund the global government. Next up, we have this. Just like the Archbishop, Vatican calls for a global economic body. So look at that. They want a world central bank with a global tax. That's creeping right out of the ground, straight from Satan himself, I think. Japan slashes purchase of EU bonds because they don't want it. Then moving on here, they recently deflated their currency. Barclays says Italy is finished, mathematically beyond point of no return. So Italy at breaking point, Merkel says, and calls for, a new Europe. What kind of Europe? It says here, a United States of Europe. So French and Germans explore an idea of a smaller Eurozone. But it says what? It's going to be more integrated, more centralized, global government. Moving on here, now the Union Jack is under attack. EU officials try to take up a closer to United States of Europe. And it says here, EU officials have caused outrage by appearing to suggest that the national flags of member states should be dropped in favor of the EU design of a circle of stars on a blue background. And we know that it all ties back to what? The Tower of Babel and Babylon, and they got their own little buildings now, trying to recreate it. But besides that, they always have the carbon tax gains approval in Australia. That's right. And eventually a global carbon tax to fund the global government as well. Obama regime approves Christmas tree tax, so now he's going to tax Christmas trees. And city fines and fees double, triple for minor and major offenses. And Rahm Emanuel's communist city of Chicago, aluminum slump means 25% of smelters are losing money. But hey, remember this story? Goldman's secret cash cow, Detroit warehouses full of metal. That's right, Goldman's hoarding aluminum to increase its value. It says here, U.S. poverty at new high, 16% or 49 million. But hey, look at this, doomed to fail by poverty genes. Scottish scientists have discovered a poverty gene which causes people from deprived areas to age rapidly, pass on health problems to the next generation, and might even explain negative attitudes to unemployment from a bad gene pool. And you remember they had the representative from Florida or something like that saying that in session in the United States, a U.S. congressman saying that there's people with bad gene pools. White House on upcoming North American Leaders Summit. This is the North American Union news, of course. So the summit will take place in, Obama's fake birthplace, Hawaii, on November 13th, talking about competitiveness and citizen security, energy and climate change, and ongoing cooperation between the three states. Declaration by President Obama and Prime Minister Harper of Canada, Beyond the Border, shared vision for perimeter security and economic competitiveness. Moving on here, Obama suggests he will make a final call next year on Keystone Pipeline. Flying to the U.S., get ready to pay a $5.50 tax from Canada. It says Fannie Mae seeks $7.8 billion in additional federal aid. So the Greek's prime minister is going to resign, but look who's going to take place, the vice president of the European Central Bank and Bank of Greece.